So today I'll be sharing some helpful reading and studying tips that you can use as a law undergraduate in the university. Let's get into it. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Rachel here. As always, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a thing. You can also like this video so that it is referred to other viewers as well. Now, from the title of the video, you can see that today we're going to be talking about some reading tips and tricks that you can use as a law undergraduate if you're currently in the university or you are about to enter into the university to study law. Law is not a boring degree like people usually say. It's not a boring course. It's actually quite interesting, and it's only as hard as you make it out to be. Hopefully you are studying law because it's something that you enjoy or you're passionate about and not something that you've been forced into studying. In any case, if you've been forced to study law and you're watching this video, then it's still fine. You're at the right place because I will give some great tips that could help you when you're reading and studying, either for exams or just generally in the university. So personally, I graduated from a Nigerian university with a first class in law, and I will share some of the things that I did to get my first class, or some of the things that actually worked for me as well. If anybody tells you, especially in Nigeria, who first class ep, please, if you are a law undergraduate student watching this, please, first class ep you a lot. So don't even ever say, after all, Wole Soyinka or whoever graduated with third class, or was it Ganifa and me, or whoever it is that people are always quoting. In law in Nigeria right now, if you get a minimum of a 2-1, then that opens doors for you, especially in the kind of law firms that you know that you will want to work in, or even companies that you know that you may want to go in-house in. So remember that a lot of people at the moment are coming out of law school with first classes, 2-1s, coming out of university with first class and 2-1. So why you even want to be amongst those people is so that you even have somewhere to start from, especially if you know that you don't have connects. If your father is not an SAN, your uncle is not an SAN, you know that you're just on your own, it's just you and God, or however it is that you're doing it, then trust me, you want to try as much as possible to graduate with a very good grade that can open doors for you to get into the kind of law firms or companies or organizations that you know that you will want to work with. So I'm just going to share some of the tips. Like I said, my own experience personally, it was not too difficult for me in reality, because I actually enjoyed some of the courses that I did, especially in my second year. I really did enjoy some of the courses. Just learning things new for me is like a very interesting thing. Like, I love to learn new things, I love to read up on things, so I guess law was just really a good course for me to study. And then yes, there's always that thing about how lawyers have to read. Yes, that's the truth. You do have to read quite a lot of material, but I'm just wondering what other course or subject you don't really have to read a lot of material, especially if you're trying to get good grades. So just leave it out of your mind that you're the person who has to read the most in this life. No, a lot of other people doing other courses have to read as well. So my first tip would be to do the reading. Like, you cannot escape the reading. You have to read. You have to read your material, you have to read your textbook, you have to read your coursework. I know that one thing that I used to do once in a while was, my course was in Nigeria, was for 5 years, and you find that quite a number of other universities around the world have 5-year courses. Some are 4, some are 3, but it's all law, however it's arranged. What I used to do was, sometimes I would read before the class. Admittedly, I didn't always do this, but I would read sometimes ahead of the class, and when I'm there and things are being discussed and spoken about, it sort of just sheds more light into what I've read. And for me, that was a little bit exciting. I don't know why, maybe I'm just such a nerd, but just reading something and then hearing people discuss it, or hearing the lecturer talk about it in class, really got me excited, and I liked it a lot. So you can read ahead. If you know that you cannot read ahead because you're busy, you're not a morning person, you're not a night person, whatever it is that you are, what you can do is you can actually read after the class, just to refresh on what you've learned for the day. If you're exhausted, keep it until evening, or just wait until the weekend. Anyone that works for you, but you have to do the reading. The second tip would be to attend classes regularly. For me, I think that personally this is what worked for me in terms of getting my first class from university. I rarely missed a class. Like, I can count on one hand how many classes I missed in my 5 years of being in university. Okay, maybe not on one hand, maybe like on both hands. I can count. Like, I rarely missed a class. It was so crazy that if my classmates saw me in the hostel, like not going to class, then they're like, oh, you know what, don't worry, there's no class, I don't have to bother. And they'll just turn around and go back, and I'm like, no, I didn't go, maybe because I'm not feeling well. They're like, nah, I'm sure that there's nothing interesting happening. But I made sure that I never missed class, because for me, just hearing those things being discussed in class, hearing the notes being called out, I'm taking down notes, things are being explained, it sticks in my head when I hear people talking about things rather than even reading. But in terms of clarity and explanation, attending classes always helped. You may not ask all the questions, but somebody in class will definitely ask a question, and you may be reading some coursework or material and you don't know what it means, but just being in class and hearing other people explain things, or even in doing presentations or whatever it is, it really helped me. And for me, I think that that's what ultimately worked for me. Don't miss classes. Also, when it's time for like revision week, you may have towards the end of a semester or a term, there's a revision week. Don't miss revision week. Like, sometimes classes are not compulsory during revision week, so people can stay in their hostels and read, and you feel like, oh, if I come out, I'm going to lose valuable time. Don't miss revision week. If a lecturer calls you to come to class and says, come to class, I want to talk about maybe what we call AOCs, areas of concentration, come to class. Make sure that you note down your AOCs. Make sure that your notes are always together. Oh, by the way, this is a side. If you like, go and borrow your notes to people, especially close to exam, you're on your own. But make sure that you keep very good notes and try as much as possible not to loan them out to people. You will regret it, especially towards exams. Do not give out your notebooks or your material to people to loan, to photocopy, whatever. I totally regretted it. I entered into a whole lot of issues close to exam because I was such a nice person. So don't do that. But what you want to do is attend classes during revision week. Another tip when you're studying, especially when it comes to exams, would be obviously to look up past questions. Try and get as much as possible past questions as you can get and try them out. Do tests questions, see the way that you answer those questions. If you have some bookish or like seriously serious friends, then you can ask them to grade you, ask them to just look over what you've done, especially if it's something that you're struggling in or you don't really have clarity on. Back to reading, when you are doing the reading, so in law, you know, there are a lot of, depending on what jurisdiction you're in, there's always going to be cases that are cited to support legal principles, depending on what you're learning in class that day, whether it's in contract, it's in tort, it's in international law, family law, whatever type of law it is, whatever module you are doing. The case might be a locus classicus, and if you're a law student, you know what that means. So if you find yourself in that situation where there is a legal principle and there is a case attached to it, which may be a very important case, go and read up on the case. Like, literally go and pull out the report, whether it's in the library or online, and read out the full case so that you get the judgment of the court, the reasoning of the court. And it could also help you in future times when you're trying to talk about similar legal principles and you've read this case in depth to know what it's about. That requires extra work, and it depends on what type of grade you're trying to come out of the university with. If you're trying to come out of the university with a really good grade, then trust me, you would want to go and read extra on the cases. Like I said, you may not be able to read up on all the cases that are being cited in class or during revision week, but the ones that are considered locus classicus, or the ones upon which principles have been, you know, made in law, then you also want to read up on that in depth. Another tip I know that which also helped me was to make sure that you have a good continuous assessment. So this could be in the form of your test or assignment or whatever it is that you're being called to do. Obviously, if you're not missing classes, then you know when they're going to be tests, you know when there's going to be impromptu tests, you know when there's assignments. Turn your assignments in on time and make sure that you have a good CA. Just in case for whatever reason the exam is not really the best for you, you have a good continuous assessment that could help you come out with a great grade. Remember, you want to start on a good note so that you can also finish on a good note. One thing I found in terms of maintaining a first class while I was in the university was that whenever I got a B, so for my first year, I didn't particularly get all A's. I was not an all A student on my first year, but by my second year, when we narrowed it down into proper law courses and I was having a good time, then I started being an A student, and I would try as much as possible to get all A's across all semesters. But then what what I found was whenever I got a B or at most a C, oh my goodness, my CGPA would crash so monumentally. But when I'm getting those A's, it's climbing so little. So what you want to do is start on a very good note. Get in there with a great mindset. If you're currently there and you didn't start on a good note, then it's not late. You can still bulk up on your CGP. Remember that every single point counts and every A counts, every B counts. In fact, if you're trying to get a first class or a 2-1, then you really don't want to be on the side of the C's. You want your minimum grade to be a B, and even the B sometimes is like it might still, you know, mess you up a bit. So what you want to do is aim for an A. If you cannot get an A, you most likely get a B. Another reading or studying tip that I used as well would be to, other than having jotters where you jot down most important points or things that you've learned from class, other than your notes, you can have flashcards or you can make use of acronyms. I used to make use of every single thing, no matter how crazy I sounded. I would literally be in my hostel, in my room, singing songs, like stringing cases together into a song, making it out to a song, or making acronyms. If there's a list of things that I'm supposed to remember and I can't remember them, I pick out the word, the first word and the first letter, and I make an acronym that will stick. And it must stick. So you can make use of acronyms, you can make use of flashcards, you can make use of songs, make use of whatever on earth you want to make use of. The most important thing is that it's what works for you. Also, in terms of reading and studying, make sure that you stick to what works for you. Like I said, in terms of time, your friends may be people who can read in the night till morning. You're not a night person. Please read when you can. Don't be like, oh, my friends, I want to go to the library with them and there's nobody to go to the library with. Be okay with being a lone man. Like, you're there for a purpose and you need to, be there for a purpose. And aside, you obviously have to balance. So I'm not saying don't have a social life, because even as I'm saying this, I'm literally about to laugh, because a lot of people used to come up to me to ask me, please, this is your first class, how did you do it? Because I was always at every party. So if I tell you that I was at the library like every single day reading up on it, because I would so be lying, and I'm not even going to lie. Look, I was at every single party. Like, I was all over the place. Like, I could not stay still, but I knew what worked for me. I'm not like, when it comes down to it, I can stay up all night to read, and when it comes down to it, I can go to the library to read. I never missed class. Even if I was coming back from a party at 4 a.m., I never missed class, even if class was like 8 a.m. I kid you not. But please try and balance it. Like, don't be like, oh, I'm not trying to have any friends because I want to get a first class or I want to get a 2-1 in law. Try to balance your life. Like, prioritize your mental health, have fun, go out with friends, but remember ultimately what you are there for. In future, I will do like another in-depth video of how to answer questions during examinations if you are a law undergraduate or a law school student. So you guys can look out for that. That will probably come up in a couple of weeks. But these are just some of the tips that actually helped me. I made a system that worked for me and me alone, and I was not really influenced by whatever people were doing. I made sure that I regularly attended classes. I read up in depth on cases that really mattered. When I was answering exam questions, I made sure that I made reference to some of those cases as well. If night reading didn't work for me, I would not do it. If morning reading worked for me, I will do that. So find what works for you. But I hope that some of these tips that I've given, if not all, will help you to read and study better while you are studying law. Remember, like I said, it's only as hard as you make it. I know that there's a lot of sections of law that you're supposed to cram or study. There's a whole lot of cases, there's a whole lot of principles, but remember, it's only as hard as you make it, and your mentality and your mindset really, really matter. So I hope that these tips have been helpful to you, and I wish you success as you study law at the undergraduate level, wherever you may be, wherever you're watching this video from. If this has been helpful to you, please leave a comment below so that I will know. And if you need any other questions answered, leave a comment below so that I could make other videos on that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.